Hello, everybody. This is Isabelle. It's been a long time. So I'm not sure who's going to be able to join during this live today. I will not make it too long because unfortunately, I'm not doing so well today. So we'll probably keep it to 45 minutes. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop up and let me know. So I've been away from YouTube for a while. I had to take care of some health issues. And now it's sore throat, and I think it's just everybody's going through a hard time with what's going on right now, and lots of viruses out there. So I'm trying to take care of myself, which is the reason why I haven't been so active on YouTube or my social media. I'm trying to recover, and I will try to do a video every Monday or streaming or something like this to give you some information as I get it on the Swiss market about careers, entrepreneurship, and networking. So today I wanted to do a video about anything that has to do with increasing your leadership, because this is going to be key to upgrade your skills, make it to the next level. And I usually get questions about how to make it to the next level, how to do a good interview, etc. So I will first tell you about the report I've uploaded on my home channel. So if you go to isabellelitzler.com, you will see you can download a bunch of three things like the recruiters listing, but also the listing of all the things I'm going to share today, but in more detail. So I've uploaded it on my homepage if you want to take a peek. So when I was going through this report, it's called the Udemy Business Report. By the way, Udemy is a great online training platform. It's a little bit like Coursera. I will show you a little bit. You have the listing at the bottom of the video. So if you go into the text part under the video, under the streaming, I've done the listing of all the online training, because typically people will ask me, where is the online training? Where can I log in, etc., etc. So what really came up when I was reading through what's the big takeaway, I would say, is really tech. So I've been saying this before, and it's nothing really new for people who are watching my channel. Tech is definitely added to every single profession. So it's HR tech or finance tech. So what that means in terms of your skills is that you need to always upgrade your skills to the more tech type of thing. So if you're doing HR, for example, it's great to maybe do a training to know how to gather data, etc. So some of the things that you can read in this Udemy Business Report is basically about each type of work. So if you're in human resources, this is what's going to be interesting. If this is finance, this is what's going to be interesting, etc. So I'll take it one by one. So first of all, business intelligence skills. So if you're in the business analytics type of profession, what is in demand? What kind of skills are in demand? So business intelligence skills, so connecting dots, being able to gather information. So not to be confused with other type of business training or, all these things. So business analytics is really the analysis of the trends, and again, making the dots and being able to analyze. So this is really the trend for business analysts in today's period. For people who are in UX design, so if you're working, it's a new thing, UX design, or relatively new. So what is that? UX design is people basically working on what I call the touch and feel experience. So when you go on a website, the pop-ups that you have, how fast you can get to the information. So all that has been thought about by someone who works in UX design. So they're really looking at what type of path does the customer want to follow, or the person coming to my page. So to give you a concrete example, if you go to my website, on the home page, you can quickly see what I do with the tabs on top. You have the free downloads. So that's my idea of design is, okay, on homepage, you see where you need to be. So that's one example. But again, some people will have just a blank page and you have maybe some things to click on, etc. Everyone is different. So UX design is quite in demand. And again, the idea with those, the skills trend is really to improve this touch and feel experience online for the clients. So if you're someone who's really good at that and you have a proven track record of building websites that convert, for example, you're going to be in demand for sure. And you're going to be a bit top 1% of the UX designers. Next, finance and accounting. So what was interesting with finance and accounting, and again, you can read all this in detail in the report, is crypto and trading. So we've been hearing about crypto for a long time now. So the way I look at crypto is that I have days with and days without, so to say, meaning that one day I'm really optimistic about it. Like, yeah, this is the biggest thing since the internet. And then the next day I'm like, why hasn't it gone up yet? Or why is it still, stagnating? So from a non-experienced, non-crypto person, I feel like it's stagnating, but maybe it's my personal opinion. So I don't know what to think about it. I don't know if it's just that people need to invest in crypto so that there's more adopters and then the market will go up. That's probably one of the reasons. But again, it's hard to do that if you're not trained to trade. So I've, for example, myself, I've registered for a training course on crypto trading because I don't want to be completely out of it. I realized we're in 2022, and this is one of the things that need to be improved. So yeah, basically, if you're thinking, well, I have a bit of time maybe in between work and a few things, I would highly, highly recommend you train yourself on crypto and trading, even though it's not necessarily there yet in terms of massive adoption, but you have a group of people who are trading it, who are making money out of it. It's every day we have some type of report of countries that are going to go Bitcoin. And so again, I'm not an expert, so I'm not giving advice to anybody. I'm just sharing what I'm doing for myself, which is probably the most conservative approach I can have, is do a short course. I have the listing below on all the websites, and they all will offer some type of crypto introduction. Then again, it's good if you go to a cocktail this summer and people start talking about it. You have a better understanding and you're looking a bit aware of what's going on. So get introduced to it, understand what Bitcoin is and all those things. I would recommend, especially if you're in finance and accounting, it looks like you're really up to date. Next is human resources. So what's going on with HR in terms of skills? Big thing is course creation. It makes sense because people haven't been working from home. So the HR teams had to develop some trainings online so that everyone can follow the course from their home office. So that's a big trend. So if you're someone who can do this very well or you have experience in it, you're probably going to be in demand in human resources. Of course, health and safety, that's also making sense. So course creation, health and safety, and analytics are going to be skills in demand for human resources. Again, the analytics, I think, will be pretty much across the board. Are you someone who can make connections between different things, and are you able to draw conclusion? So when people ask me, well, what do I need to do when I go to an interview? A lot of times, I think the big mistake people make is to just talk about themselves and how great they were working for such and such company maybe 10 years ago. And it's not really fitting to the 2022 issues. So right now, companies are faced with very similar things is, how do we deal with this uncertainty, people working from home? How do we engage with them? How does if you're a leader, especially because this streaming is really for leadership. If you're a leader, how do you engage with people and follow up with them? Try to motivate them as well. So you need to be someone who can look at the whole picture and draw conclusion, definitely, and motivate the troops. Again, marketing, same thing. Analytics, what are you getting out of your marketing data, and are you using that to improve your company's returns? Project management, do you have the certification? So again, having the Scrum. So this is the one that's also in demand in Switzerland. So I keep hearing also people talk about PMI, Project Management Institute, which is also a good choice. But again, read through it. So my recommendation before you choose any type of training is really to look at what you're going to be doing in this training. Are you going to be, learning the things you need for your next step in your career? Is that connected to the industry that you want? So I'm sharing Scrum Master because this is really across the board. It's a big skill in demand, and there's a lot of courses, and you can see below that you can sign up for that are close to free. So you shouldn't have to spend a lot of money. So again, what I want to repeat during this broadcast is that gaining skills doesn't have to break the wallet. There's a lot of ways you can get trained, especially online. You can also do some job shadowing with people who are expert in your companies. And I'm saying this for people who are in a situation where they need to train people. So before you go and sign up for the new MBA for your employees, why don't you look at how people can work together to learn from each other? Because again, knowledge share is really the way to go. So if you have someone who's really good with analytics in your team and they get it and they're very good at it, rather than to send Paul, who works with Susie, who's very good at analytics, why don't you just have Paul work with Susie and learn from her? And it's also more applicable to your business as opposed to sending the person elsewhere. So I think a lot of time managers don't think about that whole job shadowing or having people working projects together, doing this exchange of competency, as opposed to just signing people up for training, which sounds very easy and fast and solves the issue, but it can be also a bit disconnected to your business issue. So again, for project management, the Scrum Master is definitely a great skill. For sales, the big skill is, of course, with no surprise there, persuasion. So if you're someone who is good at persuading and negotiating, you can probably get a job easier than other people. So how do you improve your persuasion and negotiation skill? I would say it's all about training yourself and practicing. You're not going to be good at convincing people by reading books about convincing people. Of course, it could be a first step to just get an idea of examples of maybe some phrases. So a lot of books, for example, may say this is what you say in an email. I know I do this. I will actually do this on Wednesday evening in my broadcast. So this is going to be on Meetup, and I'll put the link below. So exclusively for Meetup followers, I'm going to do a broadcast that's only going to be available for 48 hours, where I talk about how to get contacts. And this is also where I talk about how to message people. So there's a whole lot of importance about messaging people. So, what are you saying in your introductions, or how do you convert, basically? How do you get people to say yes to whatever you're asking them to do? And really, it's a step-by-step type of thing. So you could read 20 books about how to persuade people, but in the end, you're still not getting the answers, maybe, and it might not fit your style. That's also what I see with clients, is that maybe they take some of my copies and they try it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And the reason would be it's not their style. And they keep telling me, they come back to me and say, you know what, it's not my style. So you have to adapt it. So you can use copyright, copy from text, from trainings from me, from my videos, from books that you read. Again, sometimes it could be perfect because it actually happens to suit your personality. But what if you're someone different than me, for example, and I will share a post a little bit later on LinkedIn about the red flags of networking, some phrases that definitely for me are no-go. And maybe you've sent this type of messages, and this is why I want to share it, because people may not be aware. But there's definitely some things that you could say that will draw people away from you, some things that will be a bit more interesting. But the two main things I would say is that you have to be, first of all, it has to fit your style. You have to feel comfortable with what you're sending, even though it's done by the guru of networking. Maybe for the guru of networking, this phrase works very well, but it's just not you. So even if you take it and you put it in your test, it's just not going to sound authentic. So to adapt those catchy phrases to your personality, and then to also understand, the mechanism of the person's psychology and why would they want to reply to you. So again, sign up below if you're interested. It's going to be Wednesday evening. I will share, really, I would get into more the contacting and messaging, which is a little bit more detailed on that. Rather than this general streaming. So the art of connecting people, definitely for sales, is important, I find. And I just get contacted by startups, for example, who want me to represent their products. And there's no name of a person. I don't know where the company is, etc. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're watching this broadcast, if you're going to do sales and message people to work with your product or do something with your startup, make sure you're very clear. I would also recommend maybe to give the person the possibility to chat with you one-to-one. I think it's important before they go and buy your product. So there's definitely some steps towards the purchase that needs to be there for building the trust. That's really what it's about. So again, I think for salespeople, if you want to increase your leadership, your effectiveness, a big part of it will be to find the right messages for you that work, and to be authentic, obviously, and to find a way to spend time to reassure your leads, so to say, in sales. It's called leads. So I just received an email again yesterday, someone who wants to introduce me to a restaurant concept. And she says, well, I'll give you the answer in 2 minutes if you want. Well, she's pitching to me. So again, you don't want to pitch people. You want to get them to be interested in the product. Maybe send them a little video that just shows, this is our new concept. Here's a short video. Take a look at it and see if it's something you're interested in, and then message me back if you want to know more, and I'll be happy to present the product to you. But again, pitching directly to someone is a little bit putting them on the spot, and they're not necessarily ready to have this one-to-one with you, because remember that people don't want to be sold to. So they know if you say yes to a pitch, then probably the salesperson expects you to buy. So there's definitely the idea of doing the step-by-step and in negotiation or in sales. So that was part of the report. Next one, if you're in IT, I would say technical skills, really, about, I would say IT and technical. So this is really the big one. If you look at most jobs that are in demand in Switzerland, would be in that category. If you're in cloud computing, you're a superstar. If you're a programmer, if you're a data person, a software person, you're the queen, or the king rather. So if you say, well, what should I be doing if I'm in IT? What type of thing? So the reason why I'm sharing this with you is to go with the type of skills that are in demand. So before you sign up for the new bachelor's or master's that's coming on your screen, look at the market, look at where are the skills in demand in IT. And I would say if you're looking to get hired fast and build up your career quickly in this day and age, doing something with software, data management, cloud, to some extent also data science, like data and AI would be very in demand. So what is that? There's also some trainings where you can learn about data management and artificial intelligence. So these are the skills that employers are looking to have to develop their business and make it more virtual. So now a lot of businesses during COVID have gone really virtual, and they're developing their services online. So the consequence of that is that they need people who can help them do this transition. So if you're an IT person or a computer software person, and you would be able to, let's say, offer the service they had in person online and build the infrastructure so people can order online or test the product online. So this is really what businesses are doing now, is experiencing or delivering services online. And they also need people who do the transition in all the other sectors, so IT, HR, marketing, etc. So that's why I say it's your job plus IT or plus tech. It's really you, the HR person, who can automate a bunch of things and have new employees sign up directly somewhere online and maybe get their information as newcomers and return that immediately by automation, as opposed to walking into an office, etc. So it's really the idea that most companies now want to automate, use artificial intelligence for basic things. Do you notice now when you contact a business, it's rare that you have a person nowadays. You will probably have the first level will be a chatbot or someone that you're chatting with explaining your problem, and they will give you automated answers based on what you're asking. So this is really what's going on, and what companies are implementing now is that let's do all the first level service, that people find stuff themselves, get the answers that they need. So you need the type of skills to do that in your business, and this is where the IT person comes in. In terms of software development, the two skills that really were strong for 2022 were coding and Python. So I've talked about Python before. It's a language. So again, I don't want to talk about things I don't master completely. So when I go and discuss with you Python and Scrum and all these things. I'm not myself fully, I can't tell you what's inside of it. But what I can tell you is that there are some courses that are available, not too expensive, where you can get the basics and at least get some polish, so that if you go into a job where, even if you're not going to be the coder that does the Python development, but let's say you're going into a job where you're going to work with coders, I think it would make sense, just saying, that you have a varnish of knowledge. So you're able to hold a conversation when you have the interview, where you understand a little bit how the coding works and what it does, and how is that relating to helping the team, for example. So it's a little bit like what I was sharing with you, that I want to learn a little bit crypto and trading, not because I want to become a crypto trader, far from it, but I want to have a varnish of knowledge where, coming 2022 and going forward, if we were ever to use crypto as let's say, imagine in a few years we adopt cryptos and everything is going online and we pay everything with crypto. I don't want to be like, oh my God, I'm completely head over heels because I have no idea where to start. It's going to be stressing me to the roof. So better to start getting yourself a little bit, your feet wet with these new technologies, whether they're in finance or online, etc. Get a varnish of knowledge. If you're on LinkedIn, you also have the LinkedIn Learning, where you can do the fundamentals of something so that you understand a bit the concept. And this is also going to help you if you want to be a manager or a leader, because again, if you're leading teams in different categories of the business, in operational type of things, you want to have a varnish again of, I understand what my coders do, what my marketing people do, and I'm thinking, especially senior level roles. You want to understand how everything ties together so that you can help them. You can be resource for your people. If you have no idea what coding is about and you lead coders in the company because it's a small business and they can't afford to have maybe a tech person just for that team, maybe you're going to oversee also a bunch of coders. So you want to understand what it is that they do. So again, look at where you're sitting right now in terms of your work and what it englobes. But if you're going to be working close with some of these different categories of jobs, maybe it would make sense to take yourself on an online course to understand a little bit more about how it works and how you can make that work for yourself. And again, you'll be so different during the interview because you have all these people who come with, I've done this, I've done that, I was a superstar in this company and I got promoted, etc. It's like blah, blah, blah. And you're going to be completely one amongst the other. Now, if you come to the company and you say, I've looked at your website, I understand that your company wants to improve their digitalization fast, and you've been very, very much involved in hiring a lot of resources in coding. And by the way, I understand that for 2022 going on 2023, this is going to be huge. If I can help you with training your coders even better and making connections with finance, for saving purposes, saving funds purposes, or I've always used in my interview saving funds or saving income, money, because companies like that. They like people who are conscious of, budgets. Because, and I don't see a lot of people say this, in a lot of channels on YouTube, or, they always give you the tips on how to do a good interview, etc. But I don't hear really the phrase of, during the interview, to show how you're going to reduce spending budgets. So again, the more a manager knows how things work, the less the person will need to hire consultants and delegate to other people. So if you're aware of how coding works and you hire a junior coder, you don't need to have a consultant to help you on that. You can be hiring yourself as opposed to paying an agency to check on the basic coding skills. So this is an example where you could be a lot of value for a company if you have a varnish on a lot of different things. So think about what you want to do about your project. What do you want to do for this year, next year? Where do you see yourself? If you definitely want to enter the leadership world, if you're not there yet, and you think, what could I do to become a leader? Do I need to take a course? Do I need to go to an MBA? My answer is the MBA, and I've said this in my channel, the MBA only makes sense for certain people. So it's really where you're at in your journey. If you're someone who wants to work for the big companies like McKinsey's or Facebook or the large multinationals, they tend to and again, I say this because I've been in that situation where I've hired people and my company said, we want to hire people that are bilingual, even though there was no need for French in the job or very, very little. But they say, we want French. And the reason why, and now I analyze it that way, is to value signal, is to showcase that you want to hire the best. So if you're a company that wants to be a big player in the market and you want to signal, that's what I call value signaling, is you want to signal certain values to your followers, to your partners, etc., that you're a certain kind of a person. So what companies will do for their branding is to say, we hire people that are the best, that are the top 1%. That's usually the case, top level talent. So even though the job doesn't require you to do all the things I just mentioned, if you want to be selected, if you want to be in the top 1% of employees, then you will have to have a varnish of knowledge and make the connections and to be someone of value. So that's part of it. Now, the MBA, again, it's the quick fix that a lot of people say, well, I want to work for such and such, I need the MBA. If you're going to work for the small business sector, basically, or you want to really be a technology expert or someone like that, you're better off learning that technology very well and become an expert, especially if you don't really see yourself in team management, for example, but you see yourself more developing your skills and getting really paid well for it. So let's say you become a high top level coder. This is the example I can think of, or Scrum specialist or something like that. You really want to develop that skill, you're probably going to get paid more and have more offers than the person who did the MBA. And the reason is you master a skill very well that's in demand, as opposed to the MBA who has more of a very large varnish of different things. But again, the MBA makes sense if you target the big players that I just said, the McKinseys, the Facebook, the L'Oreal, Nestle, etc., because they want to show that they hire the top 1%. Having someone with a master's is a way of saying we only hire people who have this level of education. So it's a way to select. It's also a way to show people who have the drive to get, because you have to do the work to have the master's. So it's also a way to select people who are maybe more driven, even though I would argue in Switzerland, it's not so much the case. They tend to value more the doers. So they would probably favor someone in a recruitment process who has maybe experience with a lot of things, who are very good at what they do and understand where their market is going and how they can plug into the needs, than someone who has done an MBA. That's my recruiter experience, what my logic would tell me. But some companies are very, again, they're into value signaling and they want to only hire masters, sometimes even for certain schools, which is not, again, the case in Switzerland so much. But there's countries like France is one of them, where you only get into companies with a certain degree, certain school. So you have to be aware of that. If you really, really hung up onto working with a specific industry, it could ease the process. Now, that said, and I come from someone who's done it and been there and done that, I work for a lot of companies, if you look at my profile on LinkedIn, that are, I would call the big multinationals. And I don't have an Ivy League degree. I went to a normal, I would say, school, very good school, and I learned a lot, and I still have the degree, but I didn't go to the Ivy League, it's called in the US, so the Harvard or all these schools that are quite known. And I still got into the very difficult to get in businesses. So you see, it's not a impossibility. If you're very focused, which I've always been in my interviews, on the business itself, you have the drive, you have that a leadership type of persona, you're probably going to make it through, as opposed to someone who has the master's but maybe not as driven, maybe not as charismatic. So there's something to say about the people skills, the communication skills, which leads me right into another report I read. And by the way, feel free to use these keywords in your resume, but again, they need to fit you for sure. So this was a French report, so I didn't put it on my website because I don't think a lot of my followers can read French. But basically, this report, which was also interesting, is giving a little bit of where are the skills that you need to develop to not the technical skills, but what skills do you need to develop to be the leader of the 21st century. So the first one that came up was what I just said, something that has to do with critical thinking. So are you going to be someone who is able to look at what the company is doing and ask the right questions, for example? There's a lot of saying into innovation. I know that's really the word that you hear everywhere, and it can be a bit frustrating, like, well, what does it mean to be innovative? If you're a big business, everyone wants to use that word to, again, we go back to the value signaling, where we hire the best, we're innovative, and then people start and they work there and they're like, we're still using this type of technology which is 10 years old, and we haven't I've heard this from clients all the time when they say, oh my God, we're still working with old technology and there's no communication. But you go into the careers website and it's like, we're innovative. And so, yeah, it's part of what companies will do. So you have to analyze and see if it makes sense. I would recommend to keep learning your entire journey. So what I just explained, take courses, even if it's just a course online. Make sure you keep adding value to your resume, because you have newcomers that will be out of school, fresh out of school, and willing to do the hard work. So it's always a challenge and a right balance between how much do I need to keep learning, and with newcomers coming in, you don't want to spend all your time going to courses, but at the same time you need to keep up with the new technology. So that people are also willing to take a chance on someone who's maybe more senior. That's also a big question that I get, from people who are maybe a bit more senior, and they say, I'm too expensive, I don't have the right profile, etc. I would say, as long as you fit what the company is looking for, it doesn't really matter what your age is, because it's not so much an age question as a fitting into the company culture and solving the problem of your job that you're going to be hired to do. So if you work in marketing and they want someone who can manage data very well, put it together in a nice format, and it doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, or 50, if you can do that and the company is happy to get the service, they don't really care. Now, where age could be more of an issue is if you're people representing, and maybe you're in a brand where they need to have a young face because they're marketing to, let's say you're in cosmetic industry and they're marketing to the 20 years old, for example, for their product, and you're going to be the person that's facing the camera maybe, or communicating with this type of market in marketing, then they want someone that people can relate to. So that's a good example where age could make sense, that they want to hire someone younger. But if you're going to do a job where it's not necessarily facing, whether it's customer facing, or you're not necessarily going to be on the forefront of the platform and talking and so forth, then I would say it's less relevant. And again, it depends on the organization. For some organization, having more maturity could also be very good, because they're showing that they're maybe it brings another set of positive things, like the trust, I think, and the loyalty, and people who have experience. So for certain customers, it can actually be great to look at a company where there's a little bit of gray hair, and you say, well, if I'm going to give my money, I'm thinking in portfolio management, if I'm going to give my money to this company, I don't want someone out of school who is going to lose all my assets. I prefer to work with someone who has 20 years of experience and is going to know how to keep my assets properly. So that's just an example, again, that I'm thinking, where age, actually being more senior, would be a positive if you work in those kinds of jobs. And where, if you're in more the luxury products, or where you deal with a younger type of segment, we call it in marketing, then that's where I think they would prefer someone who can understand also the psychology of their customers. So it's not so much the thing of, well, because I'm too old, companies don't want me. It's not so much the age, it's more how you fit into what they want to achieve. So if it's a young startup that wants to communicate on TikTok to 18 years old, that's the reason why they would probably communicate with this kind of group of people, because it's what they need. So it's not that they don't want a resume of a person that's more senior, but it's more, it doesn't make sense for them, because they want someone who understands how someone who's 18 thinks. So for example, I wouldn't be a good person to market to 18 years old, nor do I want to necessarily. But if you're selling a product that's really for the 18 years old, you can't have someone maybe past a certain seniority. So that's just again give you examples on how companies recruit. Why would they want to recruit? Why are they looking for certain skills? And not to take it personally, because again, it's not where, oh, I'm not getting any replies from those companies, so I'm bad. And this is usually where it starts when I do my one-to-one with clients, is that they start from a place where they've applied for a while, they received a lot of rejections, they were struggling, and then they get as a consequence that they're not good enough, that the market is just, they're not good enough. They they're not, maybe they've taken too much time off, or they're obsolete basically. So it's all negative. When I come into their world, I say it's not that you're obsolete, you're just not talking to the right head. So again, what I just explained, if you're someone who's been sending most of your resumes to companies who are looking to market to the younger generation, and you're in your 50s, probably they're not going to see you as a viable or good match. But now when I talk to them and I really see where they would fit in, so that's really the job that I do, is to try to see where have they worked, what kind of experience they have, and where's their best value. And then I would probably think about changing their match. So changing their target is really a big part of what I do in my one-to-one coaching, is where is your target market. So you're in your 50s, let's say, or in your 40s, you have a lot of experience in banking or something like that. Where are the companies that would value someone who has a lot of experience? Again, in finance or in banking, I think it's actually reassuring to have someone a bit more senior. So if you can use that actually to get the job, to really put that forward on your resume, make it look very obvious that you have all this great experience and you're a reliable person and you've achieved goals, then probably this type of company would be very happy to talk to you, because they are looking for relevant and reliable people, as opposed to maybe sending to those startups who are looking for developers who do the apps, and they're looking mostly at a segment that's 20 to 30 max. So it's more a question of matching where your ideal market would be than an age question. So, but that's why you need to do the thinking yourself when you're applying, to apply really cautiously, where you're not applying to every job you see, which most of them will not be relevant to you, but to look at it from a selection of jobs that are relevant to your profile. So you're not going to answer 100 online postings. You're going to answer maybe 2 or 3, but they're going to be very, very focused. Now, people say, well, I'm unemployed, I need to keep sending resumes to showcase that I'm looking. Well, in that circumstance, what I would be doing is to apply for jobs that are a little bit out of your league, so that, and I know I'm saying this publicly, but I'm a solutions finder, so I'm not really worried about, I don't work with an unemployment office. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about my clients and having them succeed. I think looking at it from a practical perspective, apply for jobs where the chance of getting calls is very low, but it's not going to affect you. So you don't want to burn your bridges. Where if you apply for Nestle, for example, and once in a while they have ideal jobs for you, then I wouldn't want to apply to Nestle just for an employment perspective, because what's going to happen is that when they do have the ideal job, you already have 10 applications, where they're going to be confused, and it's going to put a black mark on yourself. So keep the companies that you really want. Save the companies that you really want, to apply only when there's the ideal job, and then to fulfill some type of quota for unemployment, you send to companies where you don't really care what happens, because this way you're not burning your bridges. Because the problem with this requirement, and I know it's a Swiss requirement, the problem with this requirement is that if you send resumes just to fill a quota to those ideal companies that you want, the day when they have a great job for you, you're going to, again, it's going to be a black mark, because they're not going to understand what it is you're looking for. You're going to be the person who flooded their inbox, or their automated process online, the job board or what have you. So that's going to be a black mark, to be someone who's always sending resumes. So the way to go about this, to fulfill the quota, but at the same time not to burn your bridges, is to send, when it's for a quota purpose, whether it be to get some kind of benefit or whatever, always apply to companies you don't really want, or it's not that you don't want them, you're not really affected if they don't reply to you. It's not a company you really wanted anyways. So this is important. This is very important because again, the problem is that if you want to fill your quota and you send all your resumes to Nestle, for example, when they have your ideal job at Nestle, you're going to say, well, Susie already sent 50 resumes to us. What is she doing? Is she reliable? What is this? So really apply with diligence. In Switzerland, again, and I'm really making that even more so the case. I think you should do this in any country that you live in, but really for Switzerland, it's apply with parsimony to only few but good applications to few companies. So when you work on your skill set, on your resume, make sure it's very, very targeted. So again, going back to my in-demand type of skills, I talked about this, being able to solve problems. That's really who you are when you're applying. That's really what companies care about. So no, they don't care about the length of the format and how many dots you have on your resume. What they care about is what kind of problem can you solve in this position for the business. And so just saying you're a problem solver is not good enough. You need to show maybe a problem you resolved in your old company and the results that you received. Being creative also is a big one. So it goes a little bit with innovation, creativity. But again, don't say it just because it's fashionable to say it. Make sure it fits you and you're really someone maybe who goes to workshops regularly or attend events where there's creative things going on. I tend to push a little bit my clients to attend workshops where there's creativity going on because it's hard to wake up in the morning and say, oh, I'm creative. I'm going to do something creative today. I think it comes from the surrounding, also being surrounded by people who are creative, going to an event where you're going to be admiring or, trying to learn some things from attendees. So I think it makes more sense to say, you know what, I don't know if I'm creative. Doesn't seem like it, but I'm going to sign up for this workshop and see what they talk about, what they do. And then with a little bit of luck, maybe you become creative. I know it happened to me recently. I went through a whole part of my life in the last months where I couldn't think of a lot of things. I was just a little bit stuck, I would say. But then sometimes just going into the groups that I belong to and listening to what others are doing. And it's a little bit, it's almost contagious where if you see people who are creative and they're out there doing things, it's pushing you a little bit in a way. You're like, well, if Joe did it and Mark did it and it seems like they get it together and here I am sitting there and, probably I could do it too. I just need to make a little bit more of an effort. So I know for me, watching and being surrounded by people who are achieving things, there's almost this automation where you want to level up. And you only want to level up when you are confronted with people who are on that journey. Because if you're surrounded by people who are not at the same stage as you, or let's say you want to be a manager, you're watching this video and you're like, I've been working for 10 years and I wish my boss would make me a manager or that I would apply for a job as a manager and get it. So how can I increase my chances? I would say go to events, and get inspired by people who are leaders, who are building things. And you'll see you'll want to compete a little bit. So it's not that competition where you want to like jealous or anything like that, but you say, wow, this guy, this woman, I know I just watched a segment on LinkedIn and this lady who's doing some crypto things and she's really out there. And I'm thinking, wow, there's some people that are really smart out there. So it's like being surrounded by smart people, listening to smart people, sometimes just listening to YouTube channel or other channels you can, or podcasts, like, wow, this person is smart and, maybe I could do something like this, or maybe I could improve a little bit. So I think it's very healthy. It's being surrounded or being inspired by people who know what they're doing, who are or actually out there to build things, and it's pushing you. So when people say, well, how can I motivate myself or not, be procrastinating? Surround yourself with people who are good at what they do and who are building things, because then you'll automatically, I think it's human nature, you'll want to compete a little bit. So you'll be wanting to level up that way. And and I have a lot of friends around me. I would say probably one way to look at how to be more productive or innovative and all that. If you're surrounded by people who are really good at what they do and who are always coming up with new ideas, etc., you are automatically driven to have something to say too, because if your friends say, yeah, I just acquired a new market and and I'm going to this conference and I just have so many more followers, and you're surrounded by people like that, well, you're going to want to say something too, like, oh, me too, I just did something. So it is a great way to be in a very nurturing type of environment that's not negative, but it's a great way to develop your skills. That's why I go back to my earlier example in companies. So if people are working as a manager or as HR, and you want to develop the skills of your talent, as opposed to sending them to some kind of training, again, put them in groups. If you have your top talent that's working on solving something and you bring in the other talent to do some job shadowing, they'll be motivated to do better too. So it's like people will want to do this healthy competition where everyone will want to bring something too, and it's a very healthy way, I find, to get the best out of people, where they're going to want to bring also their piece to the puzzle. So some people call it collective intelligence, which is a big buzzword. I just think being in healthy environments where you learn from people who know how to do something you don't yet is a great way to get to the next level for yourself and be willing to put yourself out there. So much better than just taking a course somewhere, because taking a course somewhere is very much static in my view. And I know a lot of courses, a lot of universities, or they try to have some more maybe tutorials and exchanges and coaching. But I think in the end, being in the right spots, again, go to these really nice events. It's going to be in the summer now. Sign up for those workshops, sign up for those live events. Some of them are free or close to free. And you'll have the bug that bites you, where you say, well, I just listened to 2 hours of this person and this is what they did. And you know what, I need to do something too. And probably I need to spend more time on this topic, etc. So it's a great way, non-expensive way. It's again, it's a great way to develop your skills, to be surrounded by great people. Next on the list that I found on these reports, emotional intelligence. So this is also a buzzword. What is emotional intelligence? Well, if you look at it, it's just being a good person, understanding, it goes with empathy, understanding what people go through. If you have someone who is struggling maybe right now, you want to take more time to explain to them more in detail what you expect from them. So it's just being a human, I think, as opposed to, we live, I think now in a lot of companies, everything is so digitalized. I think it's a little bit too much sometimes, where we lose the human touch, and having managers that are a little bit more nurturing and spend the time to really accompany their workforce, as opposed to just giving orders and just telling them to go online and be more technology savvy, etc. There's something to say about the human touch. And I know I've talked to project managers, for example, who realize that whenever they work, everything is so disconnected, and you have 20 minutes meetings per day to talk about the same thing. I mean, there's really something to say about the old way of just talking one-to-one with someone and sharing what you expect from that person, and maybe regrouping people once, but really quality, and not just giving a bunch of lingua out there of emotional intelligence and so forth, but just explaining a little bit what you expect from them more in concrete terms. Service orientation. So again, service orientation, in my view, is the same thing as what is emotional intelligence. It should be normal that you try to understand the person in front of you. You do want to serve them the best that you can. You shouldn't have to put that on a resume or on a website. But again, for some people, I think it's not natural. So the idea that you're really customer focused, if you're going to apply for a job where customer is a big part of it, thinking about examples when you were really handling customer complaints, maybe how you resolve them. So examples are always going to be more of an idea on your future success, as opposed to just saying, oh, I'm customer focused and I'm intelligent and all that. Next one, systems analysis and evaluation. So that's a little bit more techy, but at the same time, it's bringing also the human aspect to it, is being able to interpret results, to connect the dots, to maybe bring in the right people at the right time. So all that. And I talked about this at length already, persuasion and negotiation. This is actually not just for salespeople. In any job that you have, at some point, you have to persuade someone to do something for you or negotiate something. could be your starting from your salary and your offer to getting your coworker to do something. I know I've been faced with all of the above, representing myself on my package, wanting to influence my coworkers to maybe do something that I wanted them to do, especially when it's not their priority. So, working on all these things and again, practicing them. So if you have your coworkers right now and you're trying to get some things from them, practice asking for some help or asking for a certain document, or just practice it, and you'll see how people respond, and that's how you improve your communication as a manager, or even as a person who doesn't have manager title. But practicing those skills, then you see what's right for you, what's not right for you, and you become a better manager, speaker, leader, because you've fallen so many times. It's actually not a bad thing. You've tried some things, it didn't work, you fell on your face, you made an idiot of yourself maybe at some point, but it's not a big deal as long as you will go back and learn and do it differently. So I think in business, people who have tried things will always be more valuable than people who don't do anything, because especially for the higher ranks, you need to be a little bit more, taking chances and going a little bit outside of the comfort zone. So you hear that a lot as well. So if you're someone who's like, well, I'm here, I'm very good where I am, I'm very comfortable, and I don't want people to think that I'm someone who maybe tries something that I'm not. And the other thing I hear a lot too is the qualifications. Some people are very hung up on, well, I don't have this kind of qualification, or I don't speak the language, or like there would be something that validates them that they're good enough, that they can go for this job or do certain things. There's no qualifier per se. I mean, that you need to have such and such things to be able to access jobs. And we see it all the time with networking, where it's not the smartest people that sit around the table. And I'm not making fun of anybody by saying this, but if you look around, you probably can say, yeah, it's true. And it's usually the number one complaint around the coffee machine, is why is this person who can't even find their head in a paper bag, my manager, or the head of the company for all you know? Well, because that's the thing. They knew someone, you knew someone, and they got hired, and now they're your boss. In Switzerland, you have a lot of small business. So a lot of small business, it's the uncle that, so the nephew and your uncle has the small business, and you need, your parents says, do you have a job for my son? And we say, yeah, why not? Come in and we see what you can do. And boom, they hired the nephew, no qualification, not even a university degree for all you know. And I'm not saying all companies are like this. I'm just saying it's a reality. So it goes back to my earlier thoughts about maybe you don't get called for a job. Well, this could be why as well. It's not so much the qualification, is because this company had a nephew that they needed to place, and the dad made a lot of a buzz about it, and they had to give them the job. This is also the case in not-for-profit, where people sometimes will pressure higher ups in the international organization. The not-for-profit will pressure to get their persons that they know, included in the selection process. So you are dealing with all these things that are not in your control. So what I'm saying is that again, it's not the smartest person that always gets the job. What you have to say is, how could I get myself a little bit more aware of how people get promoted, and what could I do better to be part of this group? So I call that the hidden market. How do you get more of an impact on the hidden market? So if you're not the nephew of the head of a company, maybe not, but you can get close to it. You can start understanding, okay, where are these people hanging out at? What kind of cafes or workshops are they going to? Where could I meet them? And then once you start showing up there, you become also part of the crowd as an extended family, so to say. And now, even though you don't have the uncle that can call for you, you know what kind of skills they're looking for. And maybe you have friends who are just as good as an uncle, who are going to get a good word for you and help you get the interview at least. So yeah, you have to get close to those circles of influence to be seen, to get those jobs that are not necessarily published online. But what I'm saying is that it's not necessarily the best and the smartest person at the table. It's the person who understands, where to be, how to be visible, and be in the right network so that they get the right visibility and they get taken into account when the opportunity comes up. So it's a whole way of looking at the job market differently. And that's really the rewiring that I do for 3 months in my program. When people start with, well, what kind of job can I apply for online? And I have all these interviews and I need to go to them. It's like, well, do you even like the jobs? So it's really rewiring your brain, where it's a whole different way of going into the job market, where you're not applying necessarily massively. You're not trying to go through the tracking system. You're not trying to get the right buzzwords. It's a whole different way that I propose, where people actually look at, what do I have to offer? Where are those circles of influence that I can catch, so that, they would talk positively about me, and I would have a chance to be that nephew. Even though I don't have a rich uncle in Switzerland, maybe I could be at some point in the place of this nephew that gets a little word, a positive word about me, so I can get an interview. So that's my proposal, is that there's ways that you can get into the nephew position, even though you're not the nephew. And by working on your branding, by becoming a person of impact, by going to the right events. And again, I will go more in depth in that in my workshop I'm doing for Meetup on Wednesday evening. If you want to sign up for it, if you're interested, this workshop will be for 48 hours available. This is something that we're going to share about the details. By the way, this workshop is also on YouTube. If you look in my YouTube channel, but I will add some more for this based on the questions that people will ask me as well. So, each event almost is a new event, because people ask different questions and we go into maybe different parts of it. But this workshop is also on YouTube. How to get the contacts online and offline. If you browse through it, I've done it about a month or two ago, so you can find it. But if you want the fresh one that's happening Wednesday evening with the live crowd, which is always fun, just sign up below. It would be there, and I will add some things to it. So this was my presentation for today about how to prepare yourself to be a leader. What kind of skills do you want to apprehend, or do you want to learn? Look at the online resources I posted below, which are close to free for most of them. So you're saving lots of money there. And look at who you could really follow or get into those circles, so that you build this persona, this charisma, to become the attractive leader that gets those opportunities that nobody else gets. So that's why I would leave it, really, to become magnetic and look at the job search a little bit differently if you're looking for a job or if you want to upgrade. Any questions? I'll stay a little bit longer if there's a question. Otherwise, feel free to post below, and I'll check via YouTube to see if there's a question, and I'll get back to you. Okay, well, I will let you go. Have a great lunch, and let's chat soon. If you want to book a call with me to hear more about this program, I will also post this below, and we can have a private chat. Thanks. Bye.